I want to say hello everyone who's just joined us, and welcome to today's webinar, Phone, Email, Web Chat, Social and Video, How to Deliver Consistent Service. I'm Rachel and I'll be your webinar chairperson today. We've got an excellent agenda with some two brilliant speakers. We've done a lot of webinars with both of them. Simon Foote from Member Services, delighted to have you here today.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Looking forward to the session.
And for those people in the audience who don't know what Member Services do, what could you explain a bit for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a customer management consultancy business, and we work with some really incredible brands around the world now, helping them really kind of understand the direction of travel from a customer management perspective. What are the kind of emerging trends that they should be considering, and helping them kind of build and deliver transformed customer operations, whether that be channel strategy or more wider customer experience led strategies, but some really exciting sort of clients across all sectors really, and increasingly becoming much more global. So hopefully we'll have some useful perspectives to share with the audience based on that experience.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. And Mike Murphy from Genesis, delighted to have you. Many webinars. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Rachel, and thank you for that. Yes, I have had the pleasure of delivering many webinars with Call Centre Helper, so thank you for the invite once again.
So a bit about Genesis.
Oh, well, Genesis is a technology vendor who focus around providing great software to allow customers and brands to deliver extremely positive customer experiences over and over again, whether it's through live contact or through automated contact. I'm finding it a very interesting time at the moment. It's a very changing time, and I think Genesis are well placed with a good outlook for some interesting new things in the future.
Brilliant. Well, welcome to the webinar as well. So the discussion is carrying on this week on our chat room. So it's callcenterhelper.com/chat. So it just comes to this screen. And the added bonus of signing into the chat room, as well as being able to kind of chat with everybody, share your questions and things like that, is that you can download the webinar slides from both our speakers and follow the webinar along with them. As I mentioned, you can share your questions, and for the best tip today, we will be announcing it on the webinar, is we have a very nice bottle of champagne, or we can get a box of chocolates. Sadly, we can't leave them in the office, as I think everybody would eat them, so just the champagne. So there will be a replay and slides sent out to you later, but it will be available on callcenterhelper.com/recorded webinars. So we've been asking the question, how joined up are your customer channels? And had quite a few. We've had Charlie said not very joined up at the moment. It would be great to find out how we can recognise customers across all our channels. So I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. So let's start today's webinar with a poll, which is, what channels do you offer your customers today? So it's a multiple choice. We've got phone, email, web chat, social media, and video. Obviously, if you had any others, then you could put them in the chat room. I'll just launch that now. So vote now in the poll. Simon, what do you think people are going to be saying?
But I'm pretty sure that phone is still going to be in there. I think if we'd done this 2 years ago, then web chat would have been present, but probably not as widely used as it is now. And interested in the whole video piece, actually. That's something which seems to be lagging behind a bit. So yeah, let's see.
And Mike, what are you hoping? What do you think the sort of stats will be?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to see a good turnout for web chat and social, really. The two along with voice, I expect to be pretty high. I'm just curious whether web chat or social could pivot. We see.
Well, I'll close the question and share the results with you. So 97% phone and email, 63% web chat, 66% social media, and 13% video, which is quite interesting as well. What are your thoughts on that, Mike? Is that what you were hoping?
Well, I'm pleased to see the I'm not surprised, if you like, by the phone and email. I suppose I'm pleased with the performance from web chat and social. I was, I mean, like maybe I was expecting just a little bit more, but that's okay. I mean, it's a much more multi-channel reflection than certainly 12 months ago, and that's very encouraging to see.
Interesting that a higher number of social than web chat. That would be that's an interesting trend.
It is indeed, yes, absolutely.
So going on to trends, we thought we'd ask the question, which channel is your customer's favourite? Phone, email, web chat, social media or video? So Mike, this is a question you were quite interested in finding out the results for. Not just what do they use, but do you know what their favourite is?
Well, indeed, yes. I think we're very much, driven by market forces and competitions who offer these channels. I'm just curious what the audience think their customers prefer by way of the channel to contact the brand. Just to try and switch the question, if that makes sense. It's very much a case where we've been sort of providing the tools to deliver these channels, but which do we think the consumer prefers?
And Simon, what do you think will come out without seeing my screen?
I think we'll get a really interesting sense of the demographic of the customer base actually from this one. So as I'll touch on my piece, I think that will be one of the indicators, I think.
I will share the results. So 79% phone, 12% web chat, 6% email and 3% social media. So
that's very interesting. I like that. So thank you very much for those answers, everybody. I really appreciate it because I was kind of angling to ask this question myself. And I kind of agree. The consumer wants to get to speak to somebody who can actually, they can kind of have that, if you like, one-to-one true relationship with, and maybe make a commitment with, or a promise, or feel that their escalation has been appropriately handled. So yeah, thank you for that. Very interesting.
So getting on to our agenda for today, I'm delighted to pass the baton over to Simon Foote, who's going to take us through his presentation. I'll make presenter.
Thank you, Rachel. Hopefully you can all see this. I might have been over analysing that data, but it was interesting to me that 66% of people provided social media as a channel. Yeah, only 3% of people said it was their favourite customer channel. So
yes,
that you might be building something customers don't like. I mean, maybe.
Yep.
I don't know. So, all right. So, yeah, great to be on the webinar this afternoon. Thank you very much for the invite. So, just to recap, I'm Simon Foote. I'm the director of Ember, and we're a customer management services group. We work with amazing organisations, the likes of John Lewis, Volkswagen, BBC, TripAdvisor, and others, to really help understand how effective the current operations are across sort of various sort of people, process, technology. Really then kind of help organisations to understand how they can leverage and what they need to consider in what is now a very disruptive marketplace, whether that be through the various technologies or the different emerging and changing customer expectations, through to the delivery of change, including services around recruitment and training and legal services. As part of our business, we have a regulated law firm. So we spend a lot of time with our clients, helping them understand and staying ahead of the trends, but importantly, working on understanding the value and the business case. So I think we can all aspire to delivering a number of different and new and evolving emerging solutions, but most importantly, they need to be adding value commercially to the organisation. So that business case and being really clear on the outcome you're seeking commercially from that change is critical. So helping senior execs within the industry to really understand what is the value, whether that be a competitive advantage, improved CSAT or NPS, or a reduction in cost to serve. But being really clear on that, I think, is really important. But for the purposes of sort of today, what we as Ember try and bring is a different perspective, and we're very lucky in that we can reference a lot of experience both from our careers in industry before joining Ember, where we're all sort of practitioners, we've all done the job, right through to kind of what we learn from our positions thought leading in the marketplace and working with some of the UK's and further afield the globe's most interesting brands. So I just thought I'd start with a little bit of a quirky slide here, and I'm sure you've all started having a look at these, and some of you may have seen these kind of hidden meanings, if you like. And I think the one that will always stick in my mind now, and I defy anyone to say different, will be next time you see a FedEx van, you will always see that arrow between the E and the X. It'll now be ingrained in your minds. But often our role is helping organisations to just see things differently. And that's what we bring to the table. Even within our own logo, you'll see there that we've got the equivalent sign, which is the hidden meaning there being all around value and worth, which, to my point earlier, is all about that business case component. So let's just be sort of clear. I think there's a lot of different interpretations and understanding around when it's multi-channel versus omni-channel and what the variance is between the two. I think in simple terms, I like this definition of the both, and I think the graphic helps kind of bring that to life. So multi-channel, very much the ability to interact with potential customers on various platforms, tend to be siloed platforms, don't tend to be joined up, tend to be individual solutions. Omni-channel, I think the principle of a fully ordered omni-channel experience is one where it has the complexity or the channel choice of the multi-channel capability, but they are linked and joined together so that integration happens where I can seamlessly move from one channel to the next, and my data and my next steps and the activity I've been completing is kind of fully understood as I move on to the next channel where I need to move from one channel to the next. And I think the reality here is that very few organisations have actually mastered or can truly say that they have built an omnichannel service or proposition. I think we talk a lot about it in the industry, but we're seeing very few examples of that. I think what we do have in the industry is some really innovative and clever and smart and exciting new point solutions, and I'll share some examples around at the moment. By that I mean some really interesting innovations on apps and on mobile, some interesting use of co-browse and chat, and broadening much more deeply into social. So I think what we're increasingly seeing is that a lot of investment is going into the enhancement of those channels individually, rather than really cracking that sort of panacea of joining that all together smoothly and seamlessly. And I think just to kind of add a little bit more depth to that, when you put that into the context of what the industry commentators are telling us and the research is telling us, and that which we're doing within Ember with our client base, it's interesting that typically most organisations have in the order of 9 channels of contact these days. And I think clearly within the poll we did at the start, there's a subset of channels that sit within social, and we haven't really touched there on OTT, WhatsApp type messaging, and where that sits in that dynamic is one for debate. But if most organisations are now increasingly using 9 channels or more, then it's a much more complex mix that we're trying to manage. When you then overlay the online and the fact that live chat has become so well ingrained in what we now use as a service channel, that feature and that capability is almost becoming commoditized, and therefore it's an ever-present in the service we're offering now. It all has to be driving easy access to information, irrespective of channel, and it is that easy access to information and the way in which a customer is able to resolve their inquiry, which will in turn make them fall in love with a brand, not just like it, not just recommend it, but fall in love with it. And that is a concept about how to make our customers fall in love with what we do, I think is interesting, and one which kind of adds another dynamic to the way our customers view us as organisation. Interesting fact, OTT messaging, so the likes of WhatsApp, for example, is anticipated to replace SMS by a factor of 10 by 2020. So the popularity of the OTT apps in our social lives is clearly now transcending into our business and the way we interact with our suppliers or organisations that we deal with. So, and that's not a big leap, I don't think. I would suggest everybody on this call has used WhatsApp or something similar frequently in the last couple of days. So, you know, it's become the new normal. And then when that then begins being automated, and when we start looking at things like the chat bots and the capabilities which then you overlay on top of some of the messenger apps or the WhatsApp, you then start to see how that automation then becomes part of that journey. And Gartner are predicting that by 2020, 80% of 85% of the relationship with the customer could actually become automated. So there's a clear shift in the dynamic and the way in which we are engaging and handling contact. And I guess this is what you guys are all seeing. But I guess the challenge often is understanding where do you start and what role does your organisation want to have in this kind of increasingly disrupted sector. Traditionally, we focus very much on saying, well, actually, this is not the preserve of our customer base, you know, or it's not, you know, it's all about the youngsters, as it were. And I think if this is an interesting bit of research here, which might just start to recalibrate some of that thinking. So traditionally, it's all been about the millennials, and they're the ones that are seen to be using the new devices. As a parent, I have endless number of WhatsApp groups which I use to manage my various football teams and kids sporting events that they have to be dropped off at. So, you know, I've got used to WhatsApp. It's probably equivalent to Facebook in terms of the ecosystem that I probably most inhabit now. So interesting, you know, that then, you know, becomes the new normal. So when you then start to think that over 75% of Gen X, who are those born between 65 and 1984, are becoming increasingly more comfortable with electronic technologies, i.e. non-voice, and then 35% of that baby boomer generation, i.e. those who are currently between the ages of 53 and 71, that sort of starts to indicate that channel preference is clearly there in terms of I may have a preferred route, but I also have a number of other routes that I want to contact an organisation through, depending on the transaction and the activity I want to do. It's very normal to check a balance via your electronic banking, slightly more complicated to report a water leak, and therefore it becomes the urgency in which you want to complete that task and the trust that you have in that organisation. But the reality is we've got to be able to play with all of them. So that has then created, you know, a number of key kind of things that we see that customers are thinking about. What is the right operating model? How many people do we need? With what skills? Located where? Having interactions over what channels? How long does it take to do that? What's the cost of delivering it? You know, this creates a very different complexity that we need to be working through and structuring, and it's beyond just a strategy. It's actually a fundamental principle that drives the future state of the operation in the organisation. Customer journey design has come back into vogue. You know, a lot of customers are saying, well, let's wrestle with this issue, if you like, by mapping out that customer journey, and we would advocate that is a really good starting point, and it really helps you challenge, you know, what the future state might be. And a number of other areas, you know, transformational outsourcing. How do you make sure that the contracts, whether they be long-term with your outsourced partners or future contracts that you're about to embark on, how do you make sure that they continue to evolve and grow and allow for the delivery of service across new channels, which perhaps we don't even know are actually going to be ones that we're going to want to have in the future. I think we've all seen that change has become much more complex. You know, technology is moving at a real pace. Customers are driving that change, and they have a thirst and a hunger to want to engage differently, and predicting that's becoming difficult. It's hard to keep a pace from a skill perspective internally within our organisations. Have we got the expertise to actually deliver and enhance and provide these new capabilities within our existing staff or within our existing IT change department. Increasingly not, actually, and therefore we need to find different ways of plugging that skills deficit. Innovation is largely coming out of customer service, not IT. This is what you're sort of seeing, but I think, you know, customer services is the area, customer operations is the area where we get first insight around what customer requirements are, and we then need to then challenge our IT community to make sure that they're then delivering the innovation that we're seeking. And on top of all of that, business cases are becoming much tougher. It's becoming much harder to identify and present to that board, that exec level, the CFO, you know, where they should be investing their money with the outturn that they can expect, whether that be revenue up or cost down or whatever. I like this kind of principle of digital Darwinism, and if we use this as kind of one of the kind of thoughts really around what happens next, and that is this principle that actually the technology which is going to have that mass consumer adoption in 10 years' time is already with us. We're already using it. We just haven't worked out how to use it yet. The human brain has just not caught up with how to use this. So if we start thinking, and I'll come on to examples in a minute, you know, Alexa, where everyone's talking about Alexa, but actually we are right at the start of that journey with Alexa and what that's going to do. That technology is far more capable than we realise at the moment. We just haven't worked out the use case of how to use that, but that will become the new normal. So look amongst us for the trends and indicators and the things that are happening already as our point of reference to help us kind of understand what we think that future state might look like. And the next sort of, with that in mind, and given that kind of context of the number of sort of point solutions, where do we as a business and where should we as an industry look for those indicators of where great practice is happening today? There's some really interesting and exciting stuff happening across mobile. So, and I think the first example in the top left-hand corner there, for those who can't see it, that is an app provided by a telco where you go through a process of deciding you want to contact the telco. You're then presented with an option of all of the queues, or rather all of the channels of contact that you can actually have with that customer, with that organisation, sorry, and it gives you in real time the live queuing time. So I can then make an informed decision as to whether or not I want to wait 5 minutes to speak to somebody, or whether I'm quite happy to get a response to a WhatsApp within 30 seconds, and I can make an informed view on that. Very neat, very interesting. Not necessarily omni-channel, but seems to point towards the fact that it's starting to join it up. I think we've got used to this idea around how we can now buy via a WhatsApp type capability or any of the other OTT type devices. Facebook Messenger clearly is starting to kind of pursue this as a commerce angle. So that ability to engage via an app, via an automated service, to the extent in this example for H&M, where you're actually just setting a challenge. I'm going to a party, I need a new outfit. Based on your profile and your previous history, it can then present some options for you, all automatic, all automated, and then you can click through to buy. That's a very different shopping experience. The final one on the right-hand side I like, and it's a really simple thing. I'd be interested to know if others are doing it, and that is just simply offering a callback to the same agent that you spoke to within 2 days of that original contact you had with them. I've not come across that in the UK. This is very much something being delivered in Central Europe. But you know, as a principle, could you and your organisation create a situation where you could actually provide an easy access back to the agent who took your original call within that 48-hour time frame? One to watch, I think. Social KLM, I think they do just make great headway in social terms. The one to note here is obviously the response time, and that does update every 5 minutes. Follow them, see for yourself, but they do have a live feed in terms of how long it will take for them to respond to a tweet. That's interesting. Many of us are still wondering what we're going to do with social, right? These guys are already thinking about how quickly they can respond. But what they've also noticed is that a lot of their customer base are business travellers, so they now have a full 24/7 contact support service within LinkedIn, which is an ecosystem and a community that the business traveller is used to and often inhabits. Video, one of our clients, Volkswagen Group, are trialling a virtual showroom. You go online, you speak to a sales agent, the sales agent has a car within the showroom. You may ask them, can I fit a pram in the boot? Does it fit some golf clubs? The sales agent's on his phone. He said, well, let me put the golf clubs in the car and let me show you. And then you can click through and buy the car. IKEA have had this virtual augmented reality, virtual reality technology has been in the market for a while. But imagine being able to scan your room and see what that sofa you're thinking about might look like within your room in real time. Interesting. How are we going to use that? What's that do for the industry? I've touched on the Alexa piece, but I think the key message there is we don't really know what we've got Alexa for at the moment. We're not really sure why we bought it, but most of us have got it. So they know this, and they're therefore pushing out messages to us on a Friday to say, have you tried this? Others are using it for this. And it's that customer engagement which is actually helping the adoption and the messaging, which is what's driving the take up of Alexa. So they get not everyone knows how to do it yet. So they're helping us to work out how we're going to use it. And I think the image of my iPad there shows that in the bottom left-hand corner, there's an icon for Times newspaper. And my the AI within my Apple device has learnt that at before 8 o'clock in the morning, I typically download the Times newspaper, and it provides me with a notification now, where there's an easy widget for me to download the paper. But I think the interesting thing there is we've all been diligently signing up to notifications for a while whenever we go onto new apps on new sites. But I don't think we've really had the opportunity to use those, or they've not really been used to their full benefit yet. So I think the use of notifications in the future as a channel of contact and a way of engaging with customers is going to become more and more prevalent. So how do we kind of make head or tail of all that? And I think it's very clear really that there are few examples of true omnichannel, but there are lots of good examples of point solutions that we should be considering and leveraging. I think one of the reasons for that lack of true omnichannel not only is the data and the technology component a challenge, but actually organisationally, I don't think we've quite worked that out yet. And that seems to still be the challenge, where having clarity over ownership for the customer across all of the channels is still something that we're wrestling with. I think organisations need to become very clear on what part they want to play in all of this, how digital is digital, and being really clear on what that destination is and how you get there. We would term that the North Star, and we have a paper on that which you can download from our website. But being really clear on what is the direction of travel and where are you trying to get to as an organisation helps you then really understand how you structure an organisation around that dream and that aspiration. Being really clear on the value, the customer value, and that talks to the business case, and what is the benefit to your organisation of having a notification. Does it drive revenue? Does it reduce cost? Does it deliver CSAT improvements? And all of those things are commercially important. We have to be very innovative and agile in how we deliver change now, and keep a pace with the capabilities that are required to deliver these fast-moving technologies and build them quickly into our operations, and potentially go more with a version 1 and test and learn and incubate more than we are today, rather than trying to go to market with a final full solution. Have a thirst and a hunger to get that data to base the decisions on, both in terms of the volumes and the opportunity, but in terms of the business case. And that's how we then start to align this. And I think being really clear on justifying and executing well on the right investments is the main advice I would see from the marketplace. So lots in there, and hopefully that's just sort of set the scene. There's my contact details there. I know that the slides are going to be shared, but if that is, piqued some interest, or you want to learn more about how we've helped organisations who are going through similar journeys to yours, then do reach out, do go to the website, and there's a lot of papers on our site that you can download, and hopefully will help you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon, for that. We did have a question in the chat room. I know that you covered it, but for people, what is OTT messaging? What does it stand for? And
yeah, it stands for over the top. It stands for over the top, and it's apps such as Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, and it's those new messaging apps. That's the industry. It's not my jargon, I might add. It's industry jargon, but yeah, they're increasingly known as OTT, over the top.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thanks for clarifying. Before we get to our top tips, we've actually got a poll I'd like to share, which is what channel are you investing most in? Phone, email, web chat, social media, or video? wanting to find out what people are kind of, focusing on now. Mike, what are your thoughts? What are you kind of seeing in the industry?
Well, given sort of Simon's advice really earlier about multi-channel versus omni-channel, I still believe there are a lot of people investing in multi-channel approaches to social and chat, probably more so than email and phone. So I would probably bet that out of those two would be a highest score, shall I be so ambitious to say.
And Simon, would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I think it's interesting actually, because I think potentially some of the web chat solutions are low cost, but are getting increasingly important. So they might not be investing as many pounds in web chat, but they're absolutely investing time in developing and delivering web chat.
Okay, I will share the results. And so 43% are investing in phone, 26% web chat, 14% for email and social media, and 2% in video. Simon, is that something that you would expect, or?
Yeah, I think it's consistent with what we're seeing. I think getting better at handling voice, and even with the advent of other channels, what we're left with from a phone perspective is increasingly more complex and more difficult phone calls to handle. So it's understandable that that investment is needed.
And Mike, is that something that you're pleased to see the results?
Yes, I am, and I think my kind of view here, Rachel, is that I think the customer or the consumer, if you will always gravitate towards the phone when they kind of feel they've got to get something done. In a way, they're not necessarily able to trust the alternative channels just yet. I mean, they're cool, they're accessible, they're easy, they're kind of interesting. But am I really going to do the sort of important, what matters to me right now is something is leaking, and I'm going to get on the phone and speak to somebody. I'm not necessarily going to trust that automation or a social media type channel to report that, like Simon said earlier. But I think in time, as we start to prove that we can do just as good with these other channels, I think the trust will start to. But I think that's the channel for the brands, really. Customers need to make sure that when they deliver promises over these different channels, they fulfill them. But if they do, then the trust in the consumer will build. So we have, a good way to go.
Oh, well, thank you. So we've now got our top tips and questions from the audience. Remember, there's still time to win the bottle of champagne. So Natasha's sent in a tip saying, being able to split your web chat usage by device over age will give you much more insight into customer demand and how best to use your web chat invites. This also helps you route the customer to the right channel for their needs instead of offering every channel that's available. Mike, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think we're starting now to sort of drill into a bit more sophistication, if you will, around the chat capability. I think it's an interesting sort of thing to explore. I look at these opportunities as that. They're opportunities, but we must find them. They're not necessarily there for us to just buy as a supplier of software to our customers and from our customers to receive. But I think this is a nice way to explore just how effective this is and are we actually achieving the results that we want. So I like the notion of trying something different.
So Candice has asked a question. How do you determine what's your customer's favourite channel? Is it simply by the volume? Simon, I don't know. I know that both of you were quite interested in this question.
Yeah, we work with a lot of companies to understand the value that customers place on the channels, and it comes back every time to understanding is more about what is the transaction they're trying to undertake, and therefore are we providing the quickest and easiest way for that to get completed. So I think it's taking a really good look at how easy it is for the customer to complete their tasks across all of the myriad of channels that you offer, and then try and, if you can, have the data to relate that back to the CSAT or the NPS by channel. And truth be told, whether you're providing a good service or not on those lines, and then it's a case of how do we build out the business case so it's credible for the CFO to buy into the investment.
Thank you. So Charlie has sent in a thought. We find for complex queries, email is preferred, plus it gives the customer some proof of the conversation, where phone calls have no record for the customer to refer to. I think that's quite an interesting opinion. Mike, what do you think?
Yes, it is, yeah. And, I think the notion, if you will, that the customer doesn't necessarily have some proof, well, give the customer some proof. So as the call recordings are there. So from that perspective, there is actually a proof point. Getting those recordings accessible to the customer is an interesting thought. Would you bring a customer into a conference with a previous conversation that you had with them? Nothing technically saying you can't do that. But if you like, I'd agree. I mean, email is very accessible because of that. But the recordings are there. All you need is to pull them into a conversation. So it's not necessarily saying you can't. It's just nobody's actually doing it. Maybe that's an opportunity.
So Natasha's asked a question that I currently look after a web chat team for a large insurance company, and I'm looking to introduce email as a channel. Is there still value in email as a channel? Simon, I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think undoubtedly, and I think it's. I was going to reply to the previous one actually to say that there's a natural progression from a web chat to an email in that it's a similar but less formal email process really in reality. So I think you can't afford not to have it, but I think it's having a real clear understanding as to what sorts of questions or issues or requests that people are going to have, which they feel they can only do by email, and is there a more self-service driven way of which is it a lack of information up front, or is it lack of clarity around policy or process or whatever up front which is driving people to that channel? So I'd say yes, there still is. Be really clear on why that demand is there in the first place.
My view, Rachel, if you don't mind, is that certainly from an insurance point of view, first of all, has my application been received? Yes, it has. Confirmation email. Thanks very much. How is the actual assessment of my claim or my insurance request going? Oh yes, it's been approved. Excellent. That's another little email coming out. That's reassuring for me, and it kind of just validates in my mind that it's a bit like when we come shopping online. You kind of get these notifications that it's shipped. It's on its way, and you get your DPD notifications that say Johnny is on his way. He'll be here at 2:42. It's like it's amazing how accurate they can be. But that's that kind of reassurance, if you like, I like personally as a consumer on email, just to have that play.
I think that's interesting, Mike. I think you can get a lot of that via my account on a portal, I suppose, or the SMS or the notifications, or that's many of the things that the WhatsApp sort of services are offering is proactive updates on what's going on. So I think I get that is the natural end state, but we can do that through the other channels too, I think.
Very true. No, I agree. I agree. Yep.
I think you need to make sure that email is timely as well. Still to this day, you get kind of email replies saying your email will be replied within, 3 to 5 days, rather than some of the other channels where you're kind of almost getting that instant reply. Right. So I think it's making sure you invest it from that point of view. Well, we're going to go. I'm going to hand over to Mike for his part of the webinar today. So let me hand that over.
Thank you, Rachel.
Brilliant.
Okay, so hopefully you can see that.
Yep, perfect.
So just to explain my background, everybody. So I'm currently sitting in the building of one of Genesis customers and Simon's customers, Amber customers, in Brno in Czech Republic. And the customer is called Kiwi.com. It's quite an exciting brand. They're very much I would say like a disruptor brand in their industry, which is, if you like, bringing great service to low-cost travel. And they're doing some very, very exciting things, and we're having very interesting conversations with them, certainly around the themes we've been discussing today. So from that perspective, they're using our cloud offering. The data centers, for those who are interested, are located in Ireland. Their agents are located in Fiji, here in Brno in Czech Republic, and South Africa. So a nice sort of indication of a very dynamic brand and how they've utilized the software for them on a consumer basis from a cloud offering. So just to put the branding into context. But what I have here really is just a handful of slides just to help us all think about really the notion of consistency across all channels, because I think this is becoming a priority. I think we have had circumstances where brands have launched multi-channel, kind of in a way to provide maybe an alternative route for instead of having to go through maybe complex IVRs or, unfortunately, long time queuing and call flows. And in a way, if you will, part of my sort of question earlier about which one do we think is our customer's favorite. I've seen situations where, you know, if I'm calling a large organization where I know there's a very complex and so it's going to take me quite a time to get through to somebody, I'm just going to naturally jump onto the alternative channels. Is that actually effective for the brand? Not really, because it's just, if you like, doubling up on resources. Why can't they just invest in and provide the right response to the original phone call choice that I had? So in a way, if you like, the visibility of that, I would say, is one of the thoughts of consistency across the channels. So in a way, I'm kind of seeing that providing these things as an excuse, as a workaround, and I think they've been caught by that. And really, if you like, we've got to get back to the notion of, you know, how many contacts am I expecting, and have I got enough resources to handle those contacts? The multi-channel isn't a, you know, multi-channel, omni-channel is not a way around that. Okay, you still have to resource to your demand, and please don't forget that. So when we are here at Genesis, we have this strategy, if you like, across all of our product offerings. And the idea really is to make life simple. You know, contact centers are very complex, and they've evolved to be very complex. But we've decided that if we can sort of focus in areas like connect, and by connect we mean joining the customer with the brand, however the customer chooses to connect with the brand. If you look at manage, that's a kind of a different set of tools that will help us to kind of make sure they have the right resources in the right place with the right skills to handle the connections that are coming through. And then finally, the understand bucket, if you will, is more about, you know, the tools to help me reflect on what happened, the tool that I can look at, you know, analytics, what's the trends, where should I be sort of worried about, why isn't this product grabbing so well in this area? That sort of tool to be able to reflect. So across all the Genesis product range, they're the sort of three strategies that we have. And what they have, they've kind of evolved really over what we're seeing in the marketplace. So I would expect, and hopefully you can kind of recognize this as the audience on the webinar, you know, the tools started out quite simple. We had, you know, good ambitions for those tools, but over time they become very, very complex and very, very many. And in trying to make a better experience for our customers who are probably sort of tweeting and telling how sort of bad the experience is and how inconsistent it is, we started to try and like integrate these tools together. And then this really became very, very complex and very, very costly and very, very disjointed. So although the ambition and the intent of kind of bringing these together with connectivity was good, actually, practically, because there are so many channels, and if you will, so many emerging channels, like the messaging that Simon talked about, the OTTs, it really becomes very, very difficult to be able to kind of web these things together into a cohesive and sensible plan. So the Genesis strategy really is that it's done best when it's all in one, whether it's connecting, managing, and understand, and therefore that sort of all-in-one notion becomes, for us, what we believe is a priority. And we would argue that that kind of all-in-one would be a great foundation stone upon which to move away from multi-channel to that sort of notion of omni-channel, okay? If you're having to wrestle with multiple platforms, you're in that multi-channel world, and it's going to be difficult and costly. With an all-in-one platform, you've got a very easy way to start executing an omni-channel strategy. And if you can imagine you're kind of out there thinking about going to market, or, you know, what are the things I should be worrying about as I'm considering this, you know, thinking about those omni-channel interactions. And my comments really here are, it has to support everything. Okay, so from that perspective, you know, as a child, there was a story, Hansel and Gretel, they got lost in the woods. They had some breadcrumbs, and they were able to sort of follow the breadcrumbs, and the next day they were sort of rescued out of the woods. Something like that. I can't remember if that's the right story or not. So apologies if I have it wrong. But that notion for me keeps resonating, the sort of breadcrumbs of where I've been, and then being able to kind of follow those breadcrumbs. So if you can imagine the voice interaction, the email, chat, SMS, social messaging, whatever it may be, even by the way, self-service. If I am an automation and I've done a fulfilling action, that should be logged, tracked, and part of the breadcrumb trail for that particular customer. And as an agent, when I sort of start to work with a customer, having the visibility of where the customer has been with my brand over the last 6 transactions is very, very interesting. And it gives me confidence as an agent to do a great job when I'm speaking or emailing or chatting to that customer. I feel, probably for the first time, in step with the customer. I know where they've been with regards to what interests them. I really can co-browse with them to kind of give them some more detailed information. Scripting can kind of help me steer the conversation in the right direction. Filters, searches, just tools that these are things that kind of the consumer will enjoy, and if you invest in them, will give a great, memorable, positive customer experience. Monitoring, coaching, quality, because I've been around a long time. We did a lot of work in the call center around bringing in recording, bringing in quality, helping agents become better and more effective, helping their skills grow from being good at sort of servicing to good at selling, whatever the case may be. And these tools are proven, but these tools must be available across all the channels. And so often we're seeing today that they're not. So I've got great people and very enthusiastic and very positive, and they're on the chat session, but I've got no actual way of being able to assess Mike versus Simon versus Rachel with regards to helping Mike become that more effective on chat, as an example. And we've learned this in the core world. Let's make sure we bring it to the omnichannel world. That idea of a full view of the customer, and this has always been a bit of a bugbear or kind of nugget of mine with regards to, it's very, very hard, or it seems to have been very, very hard for our customers to get that single view of the customer. And whether it's a new CRM or making your CRM easier to kind of bring the relevant data to me, as an agent, as much as I want to see the breadcrumb trail of where my customer has been with the brand, I also need to see where the customer is with regards to what they've bought, when is the renewal date, are there sort of any sort of flags I need to worry about price increases or product changes or promotions, those type of things. So that idea of a full view of the customer becomes very relevant and very important to kind of sit side by side with sort of omnichannel part. Because if I'm doing great with handling the interactions, if I can't give the answer, I'm kind of looking foolish. So that notion of the single view of the customer becomes a priority. Even to the fact of, where has the customer been on my website? Where were the products that were interested in them? Where did they spend most time? I can see they tried several of our FAQs, and I can see they still have questions. What can I learn from that to make sure I can make those answers more accessible going forward? And then really the last point is just more about your probably technical colleagues. But you kind of expect to have a very simple user interface. Maybe you want to embed that into a CRM platform. Maybe you want it standalone on a second screen, and these choices are yours. But SDKs and APIs, today we're seeing technology must be accessible. And I think one of the challenges that we have with something like WhatsApp, for example, one of the OTTs, is that they've been very sort of slow in coming forward with that robust API to allow us to connect. I mean, they kind of say it's coming and we're looking forward, but all the other guys are kind of are very open and friendly and saying, hey guys, if you want to hook into my messaging platform, here you go. Here's a nice documented API. So in a way, those kind of OTTs need to also step up and be responsive and be able to sort of access information and share information in a much more customer-centric way. And obviously, as you'd expect, being able to connect to CRM systems and being able to support multi-languages in this kind of global world. And imagine where I am here at Kiwi. I mean, like, multi-language is endemic across the whole business. And whichever way the customer chooses to contact, the first thing you understand is which language does the customer prefer. And this is kind of nicely summarized here in this slide because it kind of goes to the most important part of omnichannel. So as you can imagine, on the right-hand side, I kind of feel now with an all-in-one platform that's giving me, on the same platform, digital and voice in an integrated way. I'm able to deliver that omnichannel context. If you like, I have the breadcrumb trail of the touches that the customers have with my brand on that omnichannel platform, the system of engagement, I'm calling it here. I'm able then to observe the behavior of the customers. Are they floating from chats into co-browsing? Are they floating from chats into emails? What are these patterns? And can I sort of offset these in the future and make it more obvious for the customer? Or one of our customers, AO.com, are very passionate about why is the customer contacting me? And then being able to work hard at trying to make it easy for the customer to have that answer there on their screen. So from that perspective, if they can provide what the customer is looking for, then the customer doesn't need to contact. It's a very simple strategy, but it's worked very well for them. And I would say they're one of the brands who've kind of cracked the notion of trust across multiple different channels. So they're kind of, to me, if you like, they're well down the path of omnichannel. Then if you look on the other side, remember what I said about the customer information. So if you look at the sort of CRM systems that we see out there, they typically have a sort of a focus, or a, if you like, a specialist subject. So Zendesk is more about sort of ticket handling, SAP, that's sort of back ends, Salesforce, Oracle. They all have their strengths, but mostly it's sales focus, campaign management, one-to-many type communications. So we would see them as like the system of record. And if I can marry this sort of the system of engagement, the breadcrumb trail of my customers touch with my brand, with the customer information onto a single screen, then that gives you the sort of perfect ingredient for success in an omni-channel context. And that's really what we're looking for. And I kind of mentioned now, if you like, automation, because this isn't just about the times when I get through to a live agent. The same things apply to automation. So the system of engagement is understanding the customer. We can see who they are. We can do a lookup into the system of record and provide the answer to the question. And that might be via an app. It might be via messaging. And it might be via bots. So these are the things which I find are very exciting about as we go forward. The sort of the importance of the system of engagement will lift greatly, because again, regardless of how I'm actually fulfilling the customer's question, as long as I'm doing it in a clear, concise, positive, simple, trustful way, then I'm actually going to find more adoption, more take-up of the strategy. So hopefully that's going to help to sort of put the context of, do I put my interest in the system of record, or do I put my interest in the system of engagement? And clearly, from the point of view of giving those great, memorable customer experiences, we would clearly argue for the system of engagement. And these are the kind of things that you should expect to see, because I like to kind of show these slides because they are important. It sounds pretty good as a strategy, but when you do it right, you will get the results. And the results are here to see, and they're typical, conservative, optimistic, depending on which way you choose. But you can see and expect reduction in handle times, maybe perhaps even complete automation, so like no handling time whatsoever. Better agent occupancy, so my agents are now doing more important and effective work with those transactions that need to have time spent on them because they are complex. And then that notion that increased first contact resolution, which is a really key thing for your consumer. Get me to somebody, or get me to something that's going to solve this for me straight away, and please don't transfer me. So again, if we're sort of seeing the right results from this strategy, you should expect these numbers absolutely to be delivered into your organization, which are truly helpful in delivering like an ROI argument, and we'd be delighted to kind of help our customers out. I'm sure Simon has kind of delivered in that area as well with regards to helping brands deliver an ROI around these sort of strategies. And then really just in the context of Genesis and the tools that they have an application. It's called Workspace. It's really cool, but it's designed just for this, just what I've described. And it's really delivering that omni-channel promise. Regardless of the channel, it's remembering the breadcrumbs on board. I'm not relying on other platforms, but when I need to connect to the system of record, I've got a very simple connectivity to deliver that great customer experience. So fast, exemplary service from an agent who has a complete picture. They really feel in charge. They feel, if you like, confident, because I can see all the touches that you've had with my brand. Supervisors benefit because I've got the tools to allow me to do a great job, regardless of the channel. I've been on the coaching for handling social chats, social messaging. I know how to do this better. I've been coached, and I've been able to demonstrate that I've picked up that skill and I've adopted that skill. We used to do this all the time in the kind of voice world. We've got to now do it in the omnichannel world. And the last one really is like your business benefits. So these kind of tools will foster loyalty, boost your customer retention, and lower your costs, which is a high-speed way to increase the performance for your business. So that's kind of my little section, Rachel, and I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Mike. So just going to show my screen. So we're going back to the top tips and questions. We're going to do a quick fire one. So Mike has said, avoid spending lots of time and money on a new channel because you think you should. Ask your customers and research, and then put the investment in something that has demand and will be used. Simon, I don't know whether I agree. I think that's a great one. Oh, Simon, you're on mute at the moment.
I'm just trying to work out if Mike 33 works for Ember, because that's exactly what I would say. So if they don't, maybe they might like to, in fact.
So Ian said, ensure the introduction of new channels is done at the correct pace for the company and the customer. We've been driven to introduce new channels at pace because it's the thing to do. Due to this, they have not been robust or fully supported. We have turned customers off due to experience received and therefore have taken a back step. Mike, what do you think of that one?
Well, I just say to Ian, thank you for your honesty, really, because I think this is a great example where the marketing guys have got a great idea. They're kind of living in their world, and no disrespect to those guys who do some wonderful stuff, but some of the consequences of their decisions, if they're not including the wider organization, can, provide this dump of sort of transactions on us that we weren't expecting. So I appreciate the honesty, and thank you for that.
So Charlie sent in a question saying, as we move with the customers and the trend is for people to use their smartphones for everything, what will be the next contact channel to join the standard omni-channel portfolio? Text, WhatsApp, Messenger, Snapchat? Simon, I don't know whether you've had a thought?
Yeah, I think increasingly, and I guess people have seen this now, but increasingly at the end of an online purchase, there's a tick box saying whether or not I'd like to receive updates on my order via Messenger. So I think more and more companies are offering that, right? So that would suggest to me that, Messenger are making an active play for this space, which they would, because there's commerce there through which Facebook can advance with. But that feels like that will then drive the take up of WhatsApp. But as Mike said, the challenge is the integration with WhatsApp. But people are getting there, I think.
And I think as well, Simon, that WhatsApp have got to kind of respond to it. Really, the demand is kind of being pulled. So
exactly.
It'll come.
So Androula has said, during our peak periods, we recruit entry-level agents and form a peak season team to complete our easiest and highest volume email categories, enabling experienced agents to handle a higher complexity of calls. We even triage certain call types to specific agents, as when dealing with a specific category, higher volumes achieved and a consistent quality is given. Oops, great. Natasha said, insurance is very complex and web chat isn't always the easiest channel for the customer to use, even when they want to. We have a bespoke outbound process within web chat and we call the customers directly. The rep who calls them will know exactly what their query is and have a copy of their initial conversation. Mike, I don't know, I think that's a good idea.
It's a great idea. I think it shows that the information is there. And this insurance company is wisely sharing the information with all the colleagues who haven't touched the customer, knowing we've got this sort of information. Let's share it and make sure that we're in step with the customer. So it's a nice demonstration, I think, of omnichannel behaviour.
I think it kind of helps. Sorry, Mike. It also helps with the answer to a previous question. And the advice on web chat would be is it's got to add incremental value. If you just apply it, then you'll drive traffic. But actually, you need web chat to pop up and present as an option when actually customers are in danger of not buying or they're in danger of falling off your website or doing something else. That's the value in web chat. So that insurance company has identified an opportunity to stop a demand somewhere else happening by intervening with web chat, and that's a smart move.
So we've got a few questions. Could we or should we be concentrating more on using the data we have on the customer rather than creating more or better contact channels? Surely the best customer experience is where they don't have to contact us because we've preempted their issue or question. Mike, that is the question.
It is, and I think as well, I've watched this happen at AO. I'm sorry to kind of mention that one several times, but it's a good example where they've invested in deliberately exploring why the customers are contacting, and as a sort of a management team, they kind of gather across all disciplines and work very hard to analyze that data, and then where can I fix this? What information, whether it's the order confirmation or a follow-up to a query, or I can provide this information easily, simply on the website, perhaps. Those are the type of things that we all together must be exploring, Charlie, and trying to figure out how can I keep making this easier. And one little comment, and I appreciate the time. This never stops. We never get to the sort of like the sunset. The customers are customers. They will always have new things for us to be challenged with. So try and get that mentality into your organization. You'll never actually get to the rainbow and the pot of gold. It just doesn't exist. But you've got to drive your customers to a place where they can get a better experience. So please remember that.
Brilliant. That's really all we have time for today. So we'd just like to say in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about today's webinar? If you could put that into the chat room. The winning tip today is, Mike, well done. Avoid spending lots of time and money on a new channel because you think you should. Ask your customers and research, and then put the investment in something that has demand and will be used. So well done, Mike. A bottle of champagne. We'll be in touch after the webinar.
It wasn't you, Mike, was it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's your Ember Services colleague, maybe.
Oh, well, we'll get in touch afterwards. So the webinar replay will be available later on this afternoon. And just a reminder that we're back next week with the best KPIs to use in your contact center. I'd just like to thank both our speakers today. It's been really insightful into that. So thank you to Simon Foote from Ember.
Thanks, guys. It's been really interesting for me too, so thanks for that.
And Mike Murphy from Genesis. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And goodbye from me as well. Bye, everyone.